You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ben Favrick joining me on Locked On Cougs, talking potential Cougs. We should point out these are 2026s that have not committed yet, but are people that Houston feels in the hunt with, have Houston offers, and have potential pro prospects very, very soon, hence how they end up being analyzed by someone like analyst Ben Pfeiffer. Now, Ben, Caleb Holt kind of put Houston in his top 5 or 6 out of, I think it shocked a lot of people. People kind of thought this was going to be a just SEC kind of guy.
Easy Alabama, Auburn.
Yeah, easy. And I listen, he may still go to Alabama or Auburn or Kentucky. I don't mean to say that that's not possible, but Houston continues to just kind of be in the running here. Caleb Holt is a tremendous athlete as a guard. He played in the Adidas circuit over the summer, which I guess gets quite as big a fanfare as Nike, but is not any less talented.
A lot of Adidas guys are underrated.
Yeah, exactly. And it would not be unlike Houston go get someone underrated.
Is an Adidas guy too.
Yeah, exactly. Played with Iowa United. And so Holt played, I think it was called Game Changers.
Game Elite.
Talk to me about Caleb's game, because frankly it was so much less watched in the Adidas circuit.
Yeah, Caleb is very good. I think I generally agree with the view of him as a top 3 to 5-ish player in the class. I think that's an accurate assessment of the kind of player he is. And he's just, like you said, an awesome two-way. Honestly, I think if he was more of a wing at times, I think he plays guard now. With Game Elite, he basically plays point guard, or he plays on the ball a lot. With his, with Grayson, or previously Grayson in his high school. He's going to Prolific Prep, I believe, this year, which is going to be cool. He's just been, this is how a lot of highly touted high school players are. They play on the ball because they're the best player, and that's how it goes. But Holtz, I think, is 6'4", 6'5", with a 6'9" wingspan. He's huge, and he defends wings. He is an incredible on-ball defender. He's so freaky, moving laterally, changing directions. He gets a ton of steals. I think he led the entire FIBA U19 World Cup in steals per 40 minutes. He was awesome in that tournament. By the way, obviously playing against a lot of older players. It's the U19 tournament.
And he was 17 at the time, I believe.
Caleb Holt is still, I think he's still 17. Yeah, he's November 2007. So, average-ish age for the class, but very young for the FIBA setting. And this is his second, I think his second, maybe his third, definitely his second straight year of playing up with the 17Us for Game Elite. So he's been getting high-level competition experience for a long time. I think he's developed a lot as a shooter. His free throw shooting is really good. He's got a really impressive off dribble mid range shot, and he's shooting better from 3. He just has really, really wonky mechanics, which I don't think it was a huge long term issue, because a lot of that can get better. And I think his natural touch is pretty good. It's just I don't really view him as an on ball creator necessarily. He's kind of stiff in terms of getting downhill, changing directions. He's athletic and draw a bunch of fouls, finish at the rim, but in terms of making decisions and running the pick and roll and kind of processing as an on-ball guy, I don't think that's what he is, but that also I don't think is a huge deal. That's, I'm not fading him because of that, right? He's an awesome two-way guard / wing. I think can do a lot of things on both ends of the floor.
Houston loves guards along the
arms. You said, he's a very classic Houston type of player.
Yeah, and frankly, if he were not in Alabama Auburn's backyard, I feel like it would be a lot more national buzz about him coming to Houston. It just feels like a Bruce Pearl kind of thing with him being right there or whatever. But the long wingspan, aggressive, all that plays into Houston's hands. I made already one mistake with being able to pronounce names tonight. Ikenna Alozie is how I've been saying it on the show. It might not quite be correct.
I think that one's right. I think Alozie.
Alozie. Dude can play. We're all going to learn his name very soon. He's a really talented guard prospect, 5-star on a couple sites. He has mentioned Houston several times. He is a more traditional point guard build, although, as you mentioned, a lot of these guys at the high school level are able to just kind of play a Derrick Rose type point guard position anyway, right? But tell me what you noticed out of Alozie and kind of what sparks your eye as a guy looking at what he can do at the next level and beyond.
Alozie is, I definitely think, a level below all of the players we've talked, at least a level or two below the the top prospects we talked today. But I think there's kind of a trade-off for like I would strongly expect him to be a 3 or 4 year college guy, and that's not necessarily a bad thing from the perspective of Houston. Through my lens of the NBA draft, it's different, but through the Houston lens of there is certainly value in recruiting a guy who you think is not just going to leave after a year. Like I'm sure Michigan State was hoping Jace Richardson, like I talked earlier, would be on the team one more time. But Alozie is just a kind of high school guard that I tend to be lower on, which is like these really like physically advanced kind of bruising guards who do a lot of their damage on defense, but aren't particularly like skilled or efficient. Or Alozie, and this has kind of been the thing with him since he was younger. He was always like super physically developed, and he's very strong. He's got a sturdy base. He's a great point of attack defender. He's like a really hard player to beat off the dribble consistently. And he's like a pretty good athlete. He can get downhill, draw some fouls, but just this AAU summer with Utah prospects, like 52.8 true shooting, not great. Assist to turnover ratio 0.74. That's really not that great for a point guard. Shot 25.8% from three, so he's not really an outside shooter either. This is like your like college scrappy athletic defense guard, which is a very Houston type of player. I think he makes a lot of sense as a Cougar, I think, even if I don't view him as like an NBA prospect.
And it's almost the opposite we talked about Arfon earlier, where like I feel like that's a mutually beneficial relationship. This is just one where like, hey, you already do the things that we like. Yeah. Right? Like you're already playing.
Yeah, it's like he's a sick rebounder. He's just got great quick hands. Like, yeah, Kelvin Sampson's gonna have no problem fitting him in the rotation, but I do think, his limitations mean that I wouldn't project him as like a future quality starting point guard, or maybe, a solid one, but I think probably always some kind of offensive limitations. Well, but definitely someone who I think a coach like Kelvin Sampson, who just runs the most psycho-aggressive defense in the country, would love.
Well, and you're projecting NBA things, obviously. In college, you see a lot more of a Braden Smith as a pass first point guard at Purdue or whatever. You see those. There's guys.
More room for shorter players who aren't super good shooters or very highly, or highly skilled, or like combinations of both, for sure.
And it makes for an interesting spot for Alozie, especially considering like he has, because he was so developed so early, as you mentioned, just big, strong, fat, big being like broad shoulders, big, right. Strong, fast, etc. He's not a giant. I think I saw him at 5'11". I think one thing's had him at 6'1", so I'd imagine he's probably 5'11", 3/4.
I guess around 6'6" without shoes would be my guess. And yeah, it's a thing. It's like, the athletes at the next levels are different, right? And there's, it's obviously a good thing to dominate your competition physically. I don't want to get that twisted at all. But if that's like your main thing, if that's your main pitch, especially as a smaller player, if you're 6'9" and you're just a unit and you're dominating physically, it's like, okay, maybe you can get away with that. But if you're 6 feet tall, 6'1", maybe 6'2" for being generous, it's really hard. Like, it's just, even at the college level now, like the bar for being a really good quality guard is getting higher, in my opinion. Like, it's getting higher at all levels. And I think this is, it's beyond just Alozie, but so many college, high school college point guards fall into this kind of bucket of these maybe like more athletic reliant defense first, that just, I think maybe a harder time fitting into the like modern college game. Even, I think even the college game is getting more NBA-ified in some ways. Like,
well, you mentioned NBA-ified, you mentioned fitting into games and so on, and I want to open our Texans segment in 1 second, just like with a guy that has an interesting level of pressure on him with Houston. Before we get too far,